Hello, everybody. Let me get on the screen here. I'm trying to get organized. Yes, I was on time because I managed to get everything together, and Ross got off the air on time, so everything worked out well. Ross, you and your buddies want to come over and join this show. That's fine, but I can't build an audience by going to your show, so I'll send you the link if you want it. That's in the relationship to the conversation they were having at the end of their show where they were saying I was an anti-mask troll, but we're not going to get into that on this show. All right, so hello, everybody. Hello, Wendell. How are you today? I hope you're having a great day. Hey, Chris, welcome back. Glad you're here. And as Chris will remind me, everybody, please remember to like, follow, share, and subscribe. Ken, I'm glad you're here as well. Hopefully you can give me some inside scoops on things going on inside the Beltway. So, all right. Well, we've got a lot to cover today. Short time to get there. And we will get started. I got to find some right buttons here. And I got to send a message real quick. All right. So let's see. Let's start sharing my screen here, and we'll go over some of the things that we usually cover, which doesn't have anything to do with mass and stupidity. All right. Let me get that off the screen. Hold on a minute. Let me do one more thing here. Make sure I'm sounding good and loud and clear. Okay. I am. Good. All right. Yes, I'm trying, Chris. I'm trying. All right, so we're going to go right to the FEMA daily briefing. This is the same briefing that the president would get, except for the fact that FEMA didn't issue one today. So that means either the world is okay or, well, FEMA just was lazy. I don't know which. So, yeah, so there's no FEMA daily briefing. What are we going to do? Well, we're going to move on without it. We'll make our own, right? Okay, so, well, I always like to look at the president's public schedule because, well, you know, he's kind of our leader in charge, like him or not. 9 a.m. in-town press call, and the president delivered remarks at 11 a.m. I was busy show prepping and didn't get to see it. That was in the Oval Office. And apparently, the president is going to sign orders today at 2:30. He said he was going to yesterday. I don't know that he did. I think he was going to sign dismantling the DOE or something, and then some legal eagles came up and was like, whoa, I don't know if we can do that by executive order. So I think that may have slowed that down, but I'm not 100% sure. I haven't looked to see. Then at 3, which is shortly coming up, well, actually, no, the Oval Office meeting will be first. And then at 3, the president's delivering remarks to the White House Digital Assets Summit in the state dining room with the White House press pool present. Whew, good Lord. You'd think I didn't know how to talk. 3:50 out of town press. And then at 5 o'clock, the president is departing for Joint Base Andrews for the weekend. So at 5:20, he's going to take off to... Nope, he's not going to Joint Base Andrews for the weekend. He's going to Palm Beach. So for at 5:20, he's going to depart at Palm Beach. 2 hours later, he'll be in Palm Beach. Lucky guy. And then at 7:50, he will be home. So, all right. Well, the president gets to go home for the weekend. I guess he's worked hard during the week, so he probably deserves it. I don't know. It's not for me to say, but government workers get the weekend off, right? So, sure, why not? All right, so we'll do the National Weather Service daily briefing. And let's see if I can make this a little bit bigger. All right, so I'm sure that FEMA would have told us that in the Great Plains and the Rocky Mountains are going to get some snow today. It's going to extend all the way across the country, almost to the coast. The lower Ohio is going to get some rain all the way down to almost the Gulf in Mississippi, Alabama, and part of Georgia, probably cutting off at the Appalachia line there. And up in the Northeast, shocker, more snow. Snow down in New Mexico, Texas is going to possibly see a little bit of snow with some mixed precipitation. And so what do we have for tomorrow's forecast? Well, tomorrow's forecast, it's going to continue to move a little bit southward. Texas is going to get another mixed precipitation, a little bit of snow. Colorado, New Mexico are going to get mixed precipitation and snow. And here in the south, we're going to get rain and thunderstorms. You would think it is springtime, but fear not. Next week, another blast of cold Arctic air is coming to dash those hopes. Up in the northeast, well, they're New York, Vermont, Maine. They're all going to get snow. New Hampshire as well. So yeah, that's their sorry, their forecast. The day 3 forecast, which would be Sunday, is kind of uneventful unless you live in Washington, where they're going to get some mixed precipitation, some snow in the upper elevations, continuing rain with there might be a slight risk of some activity down around the Gulf of America for some severe thunderstorms, but it'll be relatively low. And that Alberta Clipper is going to still continue to skiff across the top of the country there. New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine. I think it stops snowing in Vermont right around July. I'm not 100% sure. So yeah, that's the 3-day forecast. We'll pull up the Australian national radar. Can I make that bigger? No, I can't. I can only zoom in. Well, that didn't help me a whole lot. Let me go back. All right, so Cyclone Alberta. That sucker is slow. It is still sitting off of the coastline and still wreaking havoc with winds and rains and some isolated heavy thunderstorms. So, yeah, that little bugger it was speeding up, and they thought that it was going to come in and bank left, go south, and it's just sitting there. And I don't know what's worse, a storm that sits there or one that keeps moving. But they're saying it is slightly weakened. It's hit the Moreton Bay Islands, lashing with intense rain and wind gusts up to 20 kilometers an hour as it is bearing down on the Queensland coast. One driver is missing in floodwaters, and more than 260,000 people are in the dark as the Category Storm 1 blows trees into homes and power lines and dumps life-threatening flooding rain. Late on Friday night, the storm is weakening slightly to the Category 1 and is making its final approach following days of nervous preparations and awaiting more than 4 million residents in southeast Queensland. Yeah, it's exactly, Chris. This cyclone is a dick. It won't do anything. Brisbane residents were told to take shelter at the strongest part of the house, while fast-moving and unpredictable flooding in the Gold Coast left residents cut off and unable to leave. Major flood warnings were current on Saturday morning for the Logan River, and that would be currently because I believe it's like 3 a.m. there. South of Brisbane, several waterways, including the Tweed, Wilson, Nambucca, and Richmond rivers, are all elevated. The Bureau of Meteorology senior meteorologists said forecasters were expecting the storm to cross the coast 5 to 6 a.m. This is Saturday morning. So coming up soon, hopefully the next 3 hours, it's expected to cause even more damaging wind gusts up to 120 kilometers an hour before immediately weakening on making landfall. And it's going to dump 350 to 450 milliliters of rain in a day in the worst hit areas south of the eye. And even here in the States, that's the worst part of the storm, is the lower side, or the west side for us. Let's see. They said that they told ABC News wind gusts up to 80 kilometers an hour across Brisbane metropolitan area, with 200 millimeters of rain have already fallen. Wow, that's a lot of rain. So that's where they're getting pretty concerned, is the rainfall, because once Tropical Cyclone Alfred crosses, the wind threat will start dropping pretty quickly. And hopefully that'll happen soon, at least in the next 36 hours. Then we have to worry about millions that are going to be flooding. Okay, so if you're listening on Radio X in Australia, and I forgot to actually mention that, thank you to Ross at Yerg's Radio and Rainbow Radio. We're live on there, and we're also live on Radio X in Australia. So go, everybody in Australia, if you're listening, I know it's late, and I know you're probably enjoying some good quality family time in the dark. Go to the strongest, safest part of the building, the structure you're in. Move away from windows and just hang on for just a little bit longer until we can get rid of Alfred the Dick. So watch a warning for the Sunshine Coast. Stay inside. Will be issued early on Saturdays, probably already issued. And they were told it's too late in the Caribbean Valley for residents to escape. And so hang tight. All right. So that's pretty much that. That's from 9news.com in Australia. I got one more news story here from Australia. It said Australians have told thousands to evacuate as Cyclone Alfred nears, still nearing. Not made it quite yet. Australian ordered thousands of people in the eastern regions to evacuate before Cyclone Alfred hits Saturday. The storm has brought heavy rain, huge waves. I saw some of the waves, and there were some dumbasses trying to surf in it. Well, that's why we had jobs in fire rescue EMS, is because people like that. Alfred's slow progress towards the coast fed concern that it could bring even more prolonged periods of heavy rain, and it's expected to hit as a Category 2 before weakening to Tropical Storm Alfred, and then it will be turning south, where hopefully the winds will dissipate soon, but the water is going to be the problem with all the heavy rain. So it's brought turmoil, snapped power lines, and more than 80,000. This report has got to be old because this says 80,000. I think the other one said, 260,000 across 2 states are without power. Half of them in the Gold Coast. And once again, there we see that, well, Alfred's just a dick. We had hoped that it would come ashore and break apart quickly and spread out, but it has not done that. It has moved slow. Look at some of these waves. That's impressive. That's impressive. And of course, the flooding is going to be the biggest issue. High winds pushing over trees, toppling power lines. And then, of course, the tourists out there taking pictures. Flood impact is going to be the greatest. So go to higher ground, center, safest part of the house. So get out. Oh, I did want to cover this. All right. So somebody had asked me, tropical cyclone Alfred is going to make a landfall Saturday morning as a Category 2. But people have been confused about the difference in categories. So the categories rank with the maximum average of wind of the tropical cyclone, but they don't give any indication over the overall impact of the cyclone and what it will have on the weather conditions or what it will bring outside of that. They can vary in size, pose threat to humans and their environments, and a lower category can still bring heavy rainfall, storm surges, flooding. A strong wind does often fuel to these other elements. If you hear categories being applied to hurricanes or typhoons, it is because they are just other terms for a tropical cyclone. So a Category 1, which is the least, is got 63 to 88 kilometers per hour of wind, with gusts up to 125 kilometers per hour. Category 2, we're getting stronger, 126 to 164 kilometer hour winds, which is significantly more damaging. And Category 3, which is 165 to 224 kilometers per hour. And that's where you start getting into structural collapse, widespread power outages. Category 4, the wind speeds are catastrophic, and they're 225 to 279 kilometers per hour. And Category 5 is the 5th and final category. It brings maximum destruction, and sometimes we call it Category 5 here in the States. We call it the finger of God. Greater than 200 kilometers with strong gusts almost over 280. So yeah, those are the differences in the categories for our Australian friends. It's coming ashore as a Category 2. It'll quickly weaken to a 1, and then hopefully it will dissipate to just a storm. Turn left and get the hell out of there. That's what our hopes are. And I pulled up Australia's map first on the GEMA. For my website, I use the Georgia Emergency Management map because it shows more accurate information than any I've found so far, even outside the continental U.S. So far, it is still, we talked about this yesterday, it was not on shore yet. It was still, the eye was off of the shore. It's closer, much closer today, but it is just sitting there. Just a nasty little storm. So hopefully it'll move fast for you guys. We say y'all here in the South. So if you're familiar with American terminology, whoa, back out just a little bit here. Okay, so this is the current weather map, and like I said, I use the Georgia Emergency Management one. Wendell says that's the one that happens when you break wind. No, not quite. Not quite. That's more like a negative category 2. We see right now, currently, the snow is pretty much off the northeast coast, up along Nova Scotia, Halifax, up in that area, Quebec, with still just in the upper parts of New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine is where the heaviest snow is at the moment. And they are still under a wind advisory. If you remember, one of the worst things with this storm that affected us here in the lower 48 was the winds. And the winds came pretty much from west to east, and the storm just stuck together all the way across the country. So yeah, it was a nasty little storm. This little low pressure here, which is pretty much centered over Chicago, is just going to kind of sit there for a little while before it'll continue northeast. And it's part of that little Alberta clipper that's going to be moving across and skirting across the top of the country. So yeah, very little activity on the West Coast. Of course, in the Salt Lake Basin, the Rocky Mountains, Great Plains, you're still going to get a little bit of winter weather, but it's dissipating as it moves further east, northeast. And so we'll talk more about this in a little bit, but down around the lower part of Missouri is where a serious red flag warning is for today. And of course, that's because of the high winds. Down along the border in Mexico is the next highest danger. So those are red flag warnings. Don't go outside and burn anything. It's not the right time to do that. Up along the tip of Idaho, they have a high wind watch, so stay tuned for that. And if we zoom out, we can see our next little low here. It's going to come in, and it's going to meet another one, and, well, it's going to become a high. So it got high. And the little blue dots are all earthquakes, and they vary in size and time. There was a recent one. Let's see if they even have it on the map here. In Tennessee, actually, there was a couple. There was one I thought that just occurred today. Was it in Hawkins County? 2.4. No, that's old. Why did they not eliminate them before then? But I was pretty sure I read that there was one today in Tennessee. Yes, 2.0 magnitude earthquake, and that was centered in which county? Monroe County. So that was kind of the Appalachian Basin southwest of Knoxville. And so they've had a couple little ones around there in Monroe County. There's a lot of activity in the Appalachia region with some small tremors. Don't know if you've ever experienced one. They're not fun. I was only in one that was maybe a 2, maybe a little bit higher than that. It scared the crap out of me, and that was in East Tennessee. I cannot imagine what one greater than that is like. So that is the current radar for the United States. Up in Alaska, well, they're going to be starting with the gale warning with the next storm coming in. And of course, they have all kinds of winter weather warnings up there. And we'll talk about this later. Oh, there's a 4.0. When was that one? That was on the 4th. And it was in Alberta. Yeah. We're going to talk a little bit later about this, but could Alberta be the 51st state? It's a good question. That would give us the ability to drive straight from Seattle to Alaska, but that's something that's going to be discussed later. We look and see most of the power outages reported are up in New York, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, down in Jersey, in, like I said, New York. And those are showing yellow, which means greater than 10,000 people are without power. So let me refresh this to make sure nothing has changed like it did yesterday. No. Okay. All right. Well, New Hampshire dropped off, so they've improved power there. No, I'm sorry. Vermont dropped off. Vermont is restoring power. They are so prepared for storms up there. It's crazy. It really was nice to see that part of the country, but it's so different. All right. So this is our weather warning. You can get these. Let me refresh this. You can go to weather warning at affirmtech.com and get these. It's a free site, but they do request tips. Kind of like me. It's a free site, and I give you free news, and I'm fueled by Mountain Dew. If you decide you want to go to the tip jar and buy me a Mountain Dew, it'd be great. The links are in the show description. The newest thing we have here is a dust warning in New Mexico. And if we zoom out a little bit here, that is just in the lower tip of New Mexico, west of El Paso and north of the border. All right. So we get the dust warning there, flood advisory in Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas. Andy is testing messages again in Maryland, Montgomery County. The high wind, which we talked about, actually it's in Idaho and Montana, the high wind watch. It's going to affect the East Glacier Park region, North High Plains, Eastern Glacier, Western Tool, Central Honduras, Southern Rocky Mountain Front, and Southern High Plains. 30 to 50 mile an hour gusts, with winds expected as high as 75 mile an hour gusts. So Montana, be ready. All right. Colorado, winter storm warning. And we got winter weather advisories in Idaho, Wyoming, Utah, pretty much in the Salt Lake region we talked about. New Mexico, winter weather. They're going to have winter weather and dust storms in New Mexico. Texas is still under the fire watch, which we discussed. We're going to get into, I found a new map too, which is kind of cool. A freeze watch in California. I'm assuming that's probably in the, I was going to say the Cascades, but no, it's more in the Sierra Nevada down south of Fresno, north of LA. Okay, I was going to guess Cascades. Let's see, small craft advisories, and we start to get back into the winter weather in Oklahoma, the tip of Texas, Louisiana, and frost advisories for San Diego. And that's pretty much it for anything. Well, we do have a blizzard warning in Alaska affecting the northeast Prince William Sound. Blizzard conditions with gusts as high as 55 miles per hour at Thompson Pass. This impacts an area. Blowing snow could significantly reduce visibility, heavy drifting, and additional details. All right. I've always wanted to go visit there up in Alaska. Maybe that'll be on my to-do list. That is in the south, what would you call that? South central, just to the east of Anchorage, in the northeastern, northeastern Prince William Sound. So, all right, we'll continue on in those we've pretty much talked about. And I don't see anything else that looks real significant other than the things we've talked about. Now they still have a wind advisory for the next few hours up in the Northeast. All right, so we'll move on from there. And Chris, here's your favorite map. I'll give you a moment to enjoy it. We see from, if anyone is listening to us on Radio X and they want to come over to YouTube and find us, you can find us under the Pair Are Normal Guys. 3 words, guys spelled with a Z. Or just search out the Sportcat shows and join in the chat here with us and have a little fun. You can see this wonderful wind map that Chris just loves. Wendell says he wants to go to Alaska and Australia. Yes, I would love to go to Australia. Maybe maybe the Sportcat tour will one day make it over to Australia, since I'm now live on the radio over there. Never thought that in my lifetime I would be live on the radio in Australia. But it's great, and I appreciate their support. So we see off of the Atlantic southern coast that, the Alaska southern coast, the little low sitting there spinning. That was the one that was going up the coast yesterday in northern California that extended up into Washington, and it's moved upward. It's probably what's causing those warnings. We see off of the East Coast, up off of the New England region, is where that storm is just petering out, and hopefully it'll be gone from us for a while. Otherwise, winds in the middle of the country aren't too bad. Of course, you always have the downdrafts from the Rockies coming over to the Ohio plains and the Windy City. But overall, not too bad as far as the United States, as far as windy. Let's search over and find out our Australian friends. Get a zoom in and get a look at Alfred. When we looked at it yesterday, it had a really tight core and it was really nasty. According to this map, which is a little more updated, is the eye has finally come ashore. It's still spinning in a counterclockwise, and the winds have dissipated from what we saw yesterday. Chris says the only thing nicer to see than this is wind map would be Casey. Well, I don't know if she's listening today. I didn't send her the link to tell her to watch, and she's not gotten used to watching this yet. Yeah, this wind map yesterday, when we zoomed in on it, all of us even commented that it was so nice, and it's still nice and tightly formed, but the wind speeds appear to be decreased. They're still quite high, but they appear to be decreased from what they were yesterday. Yesterday, they were just nasty. Still pretty high winds today, but it does look like the eye has finally come ashore, hopefully giving you guys some Australia some soon to be relief when it turns south and goes away. I know you all will be happy. You can see the front actually trying to steer the storm downward. So hopefully that will happen in a relatively short period of time. But as we've learned from Cyclone Alfred, it hasn't done anything on the speed which they predicted it would. I'm not a meteorologist. I just like to talk about it. So what do they call that in golf? I'm a duffer, hacker. So yeah, but hopefully it'll get out of there. All right, we'll zoom out and take a look at the other side of the world, what it's doing over there with wind. It's just, you're right, it's just so relaxing. Look down and see what it's doing on the bottom of the world. I just love the fact that you can just take this map and spin it any way you want of the globe and zoom in, zoom out, look over continents. You can see what the weather's doing anywhere in Arctic. You can see it everywhere. I did see a NASA map that was pretty close to this. I didn't like it though because it had too many big arrows, and they were showing the direction the Earth was spinning, and it was overwhelming. This is just the right amount of information, at least for my brain to process. The one with NASA was showing the wind speeds and how the Earth affected the Earth's gravity affected the wind speed, and it was a lot of arrows. Too much for me. So yeah. So I'll stick with this one. All right. And finally, the wind map came back for the United States. It was down for a couple days. And we see that the highest winds today are reported. What would that be, Chris? That would be off. That's west of you a little bit. So that's where the highest winds are. Yes, that map is very user friendly. And the only thing that it doesn't really explain is the speeds. But with the colors and the speed of the arrows, you get the idea. So yeah, it's a great map. I really recommend anybody go check it out. It is very user friendly, point and click, as they say. So the top winds, what was I saying, Chris? It was it's west of Chicago. Well, actually southwest of Chicago, where that little low is still trying to spin, and it's trying really hard to tap the Gulf of America moisture, but it's not gonna make it that far down south before it just skirts out across the top of the country. But yeah, the highest wind speed is currently 43.4 degrees with an average of 10.8 miles per hour. Here in the south, the winds are out of the south, so we're pulling that nice southern moisture up into Atlanta. So okay, Chris says those right around Casey's area where it's the windiest. So she did say she had a lot of storm damage from that last storm that went through. So this map is also available. Just Google Wind Map and it brings it up. It's not a government service. It's a private industry. It's a production of hint.fm, whomever hint.fm is. You can even buy prints of this. I would rather have a print of the globe in the the colors in the AI version that we have. That would be the one I would want prints of. When I worked in Virginia, KG worked there with me too. We worked for a photo agency and we got to develop prints from NASA. And so we would oftentimes get some really cool images. And at one point in time, I had some great photos from space. I have no idea. And my moves from Virginia to Tennessee to Georgia, where they went. But yeah, it was neat being able to see photos pretty fresh from NASA. And living inside the Beltway, we saw pictures of other things too. So, all right, we're looking now at the interactive map of air quality, which is current. And pretty much across the South, looks pretty good, except down along the Gulf of America coastline, New Orleans, New Orleans, Louisiana, Alabama, kind of skirting the coastline, almost all the way down to Tampa, down in the Gulf of America, and over on the west side of the Gulf of America, Austin, Houston, that area, extending upwards. Pretty much all of Texas right now is moderate air quality. But everywhere else looks pretty good except for those areas and some scattered areas over the Cascades and the Rocky Mountain regions where it's moderate. But overall, it looks pretty good. I hope I didn't close that other map. Nope, it's coming up. All right. So that is the airflow interactivity map showing the conditions of the air we're breathing currently. I have no idea what that noise was. In case you all heard that. All right. So this is the event map. I know what it is. My cat's in here. I kind of scanned it earlier to see if there's anything really new. Let's see, some extreme rainfall up in I used to know how to pronounce that. Havre Saint Pierre, Quebec. Some significant rainfalls up there. High winds up along the top of the country. And we have over here in North Dakota. And we discussed this one the other day. In Seattle, I think we discussed this was a cyber attack on the hospitals. And up in Vancouver, this one's new. It's the third measles case has been confirmed in British Columbia in the lower mainland since February. High winds off the coast of British Columbia. High winds in California. This is the breakdown of the power grid, power outages. And this one's new. Industrial breakdown of energy supply systems. Weather knocks out power to thousands of valley homes. It is impacting the Sky Harbor flight schedule. And that is out of Phoenix. So the winds have impacted the plane's ability to land there. They're diverting. Okay. The measles is still a thing in Texas. It's going to be there for a while. It's going to be there for a while. We got to get that isolated, but it's going to take time. We do have an airplane. A small plane has crashed at a pipeline field near Pearland Regional Airport. Is that in Texas? Oh, yeah. That's down on the coast of the Gulf of America, Sugarland, Texas, which is west of Galveston. Okay. Small plane crash. Look at this one. Space incident. Oh, that's right. We're going to cover this later. Space incident. What kind of space incident? SpaceX Starship rocket test exploded and falls from the sky. We've got some sightings of that coming up later in the news. But yeah, SpaceX, this is their second rocket test that explodes and falls to the ground. Some conspiracy people asked me one time if I thought that that was on purpose, that that was maybe somebody's way of telling us, no, you shouldn't be doing that. Let's see, this is some earthquakes out in the Pacific, just above the equator. And we had the earthquake down in Chile. And what is this? Is this new? Yes, this is new. Social incident. Local security conflict in Ecuador. 25 have been killed in coordinated gang attacks in Ecuador's largest city. All right, that's new. And what else do we have down here? It looks like there's been a lot of earthquakes along the southern coast of South America. And it's caused some power outages, which we saw in Buenos Aires yesterday. And let's see. We'll continue on. We know about what's going on over there. And somebody else sent me a message and asked me if Russia was Asia or if it was Middle Eastern, because it kind of sits in the middle of the two. And my reply back was, they're Russian. It's not really Asian. It's not really the Middle East. It's Russia. And is that new? Oh, flooding in Indonesia. Just kind of skirting around to see if anything pops out. Japan yesterday had some problems. Another outdoor, nope, that's old. Oh, there's 7 of them. So outdoors fires in Japan have caused multiple wildfires. Stop burning, people. It's pretty simple. And we see down in Australia, Alfred is still nasty down there. Melbourne, we see a social incident. An Australian boy, 17 charged. He's 17. He's been charged with breaching Avalon Airport security fence and trying to board a Jetstar plane with a shotgun. Okay, well, that's in Melbourne. I didn't think Australians were allowed to have weapons. I thought that their government took all their weapons a while back. Okay, well, 17-year-old got a shotgun, breached an airport, and tried to board a plane. Probably not the brightest thing he's ever done. And he probably won't be doing anything that silly anytime in the near future. I don't know how their justice system is, but hopefully he won't have a chance to. All right, so as we scan around, that looks like... yes, it is still X-rated, Wendell. Wendell is talking about... the storm off of the coast of Australia, the graphic. We really haven't talked about anything about this storm that is coming off of Mozambique. Yeah, we really haven't talked anything about it. It's a cyclone in the Indian Ocean. It's just kind of come off the coast and just really hasn't affected anybody except maybe in Madagascar. So it's just kind of doing its own little thing going to the southern and the Indian Oceans. So stay out to sea, please. All right, so that's all for that. Here is the new map I found. And I like this because it adds not only the active fires, it shows the little red dots, which are potential fires that have not yet been confirmed. Those are confirmed by satellite, and it's real time according to NASA. I'm going to assume there's probably at least an hour's delay, but NASA is saying that it's real time. All the little red dots are where they have detected a fire and they don't necessarily have boots on the ground. So you can see there's lots of little red dots from where NASA has seen fires. Some of them have matured. Wendell, do you still have one? But I believe that was a controlled burn down in southeastern. Well, no, we just call it LA, Lower Alabama. And the other thing I like about this map, aside from showing us the size of the fires, it shows us the red flag areas, which the other maps did not show, which we talked about Missouri down along the coast of Arkansas, Kansas, and Oklahoma, where the highest danger there is. And then from El Paso, southern, in following the southern border is where the next one is. And then Texas, pretty much Austin west down to the border, south of San Antonio. And then if you look, it's still showing the Knoxville fires. I checked on this yesterday after we got off. They were still fighting it, but it was pretty well contained at that time. So they weren't that concerned about it. They were just kind of watching and monitoring it. So they still have it on the map, those two fires. This one is showing downtown Knoxville. Wonder what they saw. I wonder if they've got a structure fire there. That's showing it. And showing it in Western Heights. Yeah, that would have to be a structure fire in that area. It's interesting if you have a large enough structure fire to show up on the NASA satellite. And let's see, we'll zoom up to, we'll go this way, see if there's anything out. Blue Ridge, Roanoke, it looks like there's been a fire detected there in Cave Springs. And further inland in middle part of Virginia, would that be southern central? There's been another smaller fire. Nothing significant as of yet. Up in, where am I going? I'm going this way. I'm going over towards Ohio region. West Virginia still looks fairly good. They're still working on that one right at the border of West Virginia and Kentucky. They're still working to put that one out. Kentucky looks fairly good. Illinois showing some fires up here. And once again, I'm wondering, unless these are small parks or something, not familiar with the areas, but those would have to be structure fires. I may imagine that could be something else, but I would think it would be structure fires that it's showing. Zoom out. And Illinois looks pretty good. Wendell says Anniston was burning a few days ago. Yeah, we saw that on the map. I didn't see, Chris, I don't see anything else up your way. Really significant, at least. Wendell, there's several fires reported in Alabama, but nothing really significant like we did see the other day in Anniston. And Anniston does a lot of control burns too. So Florida, where they had the red flag warnings, we do see that they've got a fire. What is that? Northeast 90th Way. And what is that? Is that, what county is that? Tampa? Is that Tampa? No, that's a little bit further, too far up the coast to be Tampa. But I like this map. It gives us pretty good perspective of how big the fires and the things, like I said, it's real time. So, oh yeah, and there was a volcano popped up. I thought that was interesting. There was some volcanic activity in St. Helens. It's apparently not been anything too major because it hasn't really, I did a quick search and it hadn't really made the news. So it must not be anything more than normal. But yeah, so that's it for the fires. And there, I looked at the smoke map and there was nothing significant on the smoke map because, as we saw, the winds really weren't moving throughout the country very much, except for coming off the Rocky Mountains, the Denver area. I brought this up today because they did update their data. They say they updated on Mondays and Fridays. Let me refresh it to see if they got anything new. But they do update their activity. Yes, so it's been updated for Friday, March 7th, and this talks about the level of respiratory illnesses. And we see that, well, Georgia is moderate, whereas other parts of the South are in the low. Virginia is moderate with West Virginia, Kentucky. Illinois, it's very high in Ohio, and it's very high in New Hampshire. And it's very high in, is that Missouri? That's what that is, right? Missouri, right? Wisconsin. Whew. Wisconsin. It's very high in Wisconsin. So that data is coming in through the CDC. And according to this, it was just recently, they've just recently updated it. Well, this says March 5th, but the other one said that it was updated on Friday. COVID-19. Oh, wait a minute. I said the nasty word on YouTube. The C virus. We see that it is still kind of high in the South. Alabama, it's moderate. In Illinois, it's high. Pretty much throughout the center of the country, down to the south, it's high. And along the northeast coast, it's where the highest density of populations are, where there's smaller densities of populations. It's relatively low, with the exception of like Virginia, which kind of surprises me. I would have thought it would have been higher with their population up around the metro area. So, and this is coming off of the wastewater for COVID-19. Remember, they test our poo. Yeah. Talking about influenza A, we're showing in the South that we're still pretty high for influenza. Virginia, you're very high. Alabama, you're pretty high, but not extremely high. To the west of you there, it looks like they're extremely high in Louisiana and Mississippi. Arkansas, Mississippi. Yeah, Arkansas, Mississippi, Louisiana. It's all high in that region. The only places we're not getting much data is up along the Montana area. In Alaska, it looks like it's very high. RSV looks like currently, according to our wastewater, that it's pretty moderate to mild throughout most of the country, with the most severe areas being in Iowa and Wyoming. West Virginia, it's kind of moderate, but throughout the most of the country, it's relatively low. Mississippi, it's very low. And in Virginia, it's very low. New York, it's very low. Michigan, it's very low. So South Dakota, it's very high. So, and no data from Arizona, Montana, or North Dakota. That's for your RSV. And that was last updated 6 March. Emergency department visits. Let's see here. They're showing the epidemic trends. They're actually not estimated here in Georgia, which is interesting. It's declining in Alabama, Illinois. It's not changing from the last time we talked. It's declining in West Virginia, Kentucky, Virginia, North Carolina. It's not truly changing. Tennessee is not changing. Florida is not changing from the last we reported, which was a slight uptick. This is because of the C virus with ER visits. And influenza, we see that it's declining in pretty much the Carolinas, in Florida, in Alabama, throughout the South pretty much is declining. Some of the states, West Virginia, Virginia, Tennessee, and Mississippi, and Illinois, and Louisiana have not reported any data. And let's see. So that's it pretty much for that map. We'll check it again on Monday. It should have some updates. All right. We go to the fire alerts, which is, of course, the New England fire alerts. And we see, once again, there's not a whole lot of activity, which is good news. Newark, New Jersey, they had a fire through the roof and went defensive. And it went to a third alarm. That's probably because of water and the temperature, if I had to guess. Second alarm in New Britain, Connecticut on Broad Street for a mixed occupancy. It means it's probably businesses in the basement and apartments above. Britain Street, did we just report on that one? Or is that different? Nope, I guess that was Britain. In New Britain, Connecticut on Broad Street, they had a second alarm on a 4-story mixed. In Boston, they had a 4-story apartment building, and it was pretty much knocked down when the first 10 units got there. Wendell asks, he wonders if Bigfoot has gotten the virus. Interesting question. I would think the closer to mankind they get, probably. So that would be my guess. Just my guess. I don't know. So there's not much being reported there. We'll hop over to alert page and see if maybe it's just a case of the Fridays and not much being reported, or if the weather is actually impacting it and there's not really that much happening. Let's hope for the latter. we will go to our disaster alerts. And now I have it pulled up where we can see the different alerts rather than trying to go to each one. Really for the United States, mostly weather and flooding with the fires we've already talked about. Landslides are a big problem outside of the continental United States. So that was the big things. But I didn't see a whole lot of craziness. That was 2 months ago. So I really wish they would update these so that you knew, because they'll show things that were 2 months old. So we look down here and see the impact. This shows a good idea of the impact ring of Hurricane Alfred on this map. 1052 universal or 1853 universal time. We can see, which I think we're right around the 4 o'clock in the morning hour. And we're about to lose Radio X Australia. Radio X Australia, if you want to continue, we're going to start covering some more news. We do have some Australian news there. If you want to hop in, come over to YouTube and find us under the Para R Normal Guys. 3 words, guys with a Z. Search out the Sportcat shows. And I promised anyone that left a comment, either post show or in the chat, I would give them a personal response. So come on over. I'll give you a personal response. Not that that really means anything, but so we see the ring of destruction as Cyclone Alfred is coming in the flooding that it's causing, the wind damage. It's a pretty large size storm. I don't know kilometers, but miles wise, that's pretty dang big. So lots of flooding and high winds. And that's pretty much it. I really need to figure out a way of trying to sort out the dates so that we can maybe just keep up with a week's worth of activities. I mean, we know about the things that were reported days ago. I didn't know there's a landslide in the Appalachian Mountains. That I didn't know. That was reported 6 hours ago. So that was the Appalachian Mountains, Johnstown, Pennsylvania. There has been a landslide. All right. Well, I did not know about that one. And what is this one? Yeah, this is the landslide. About 6 hours ago, there was a landslide in Ithaca, New York. Interesting. All right, so there have been some things that are relatively fresh on here. What do we have here? 3 days ago, it was an avalanche in Colorado, which is probably more common out there. Landslide in Utah, northeast of Nephi, Utah. And 6 hours landslide. So I was thinking all these landslides were more towards South America, but no, they are actually here in. So let's just go back and see. We'll see, it's Indonesia. So and Nevada, 6 hours ago, it was updated 5 minutes ago. A landslide watch has been indicated by the landslide hazard assessment model. Oh, this is a new map I'm going to have to find because I didn't know there was such a thing. Landslide assessment model. Let's see if NASA's got one. Oh, I don't have to go through a bunch of hoops. I was hoping to have just a map. All right, well, I'll do this on my time, so I'm not interfering with your all's time since nothing is popping right up. I was hoping there would be a map like we had on some of the others. I'll look and see if I can find one. All right, so that is in Nevada, a landslide, and Europe, Brisbane, Queensland. That's 2 days ago. See, I want to be able to filter these out and take out the stuff that's why I'm afraid we'll miss something. That's how I missed the landslide in the Appalachian Mountains. Yeah, Pennsylvania, Appalachian Mountains, Johnston, Pennsylvania. A landslide watch indicates current conditions present a risk of rainfall induced landslide that will affect 537 people, 215 households, and approximately $87.3 million of infrastructure are within the affected areas. And nope, That's in Rwanda. Once again, Rwanda. Down in the Congo in Brazil, landslide. Volcanic activity. It's in Santa Maria, Guatemala. All right, so looks like that's pretty much it for the states. Southwest of Lake Louise, Alberta, Canada, Environmental Canada has issued an air quality advisory that's are expected occurring from dust and okay. Hadn't seen that one before, but now we have. And Ecuador, see, it jumps around too much. It needs to be just what is on your screen. I don't know. I'm still learning this map, but we will continue to persevere on this one. So the disaster alerts, you can go to disasteralert.pdc.org and pull up the disaster alert map from there. Everybody in Radio X in Australia, thank you for tuning in, and thank you for listening to Yerg's Radio. Make sure to check us out Monday, where I'm sure we'll have some exciting updates, and maybe, if you want, we can get some more information and intel. If anybody wants to send pictures or updated information from Australia, feel free to contact me at Sportcat, SPORTCAT, at protonmail.com, or check it out on the Paranormal Guys with a Z on YouTube and shoot me a message there. I would love to get some information from our fans down under. So shoot me a message, or you can go to speakpipe.com/Sportcat and leave me a voicemail, and I will play it during the show. I will play it live during our next show on Monday. We will be back, which I think is between 3 and 4 a.m. Your time, or maybe it's 4 and 5 a.m. with the time change coming up. So make sure to check us out next week on Monday. Hope you guys stay safe in Australia, and we will see you soon. All right, I am just going to minimize this one for now because I want to find that map later. I want to remember to do that. And we will jump over to other news. So there is a company that is seeking to resurrect the woolly mammoth. They have tried several times, and apparently the pregnancy of an elephant is 22 months. So they've tried several times and not been successful to reproduce a woolly mammoth. So what they're doing is they're taking the DNA and inserting it in an elephant and trying to reproduce a woolly mammoth. Well, they have successfully gotten their test to where they now have created a woolly mammoth mouse, or a woolly mouse. And if you're listening to this and don't know what it is, you can Google it, but it's a slightly larger, fatter mouse with longer fur, obviously with woolly, and it's kind of a desert tan to a reddish color. So the woolly mouse has been developed by Colossal Biosciences in editing genes to give the mouse bushier, thicker coat and skin, and they're going to use that to I can't make this up, to produce a woolly mammoth. So we're going to go from a mouse to an elephant. Aren't elephants scared of mouses? I don't know. The biotech company Colossal Biosciences has long aspired to bring back the extinct woolly mammoth, which roamed the northern hemisphere thousands of years ago during the last ice age. But for now, a step along the way has finally come up with the woolly mouse. The woolly mouse. Tuesday, Colossal announced that this lab-born animal, which features shaggy mammoth-like fur and has cold-adapted traits, such as the way in which it stores and burns fats, researchers retrieved and sequenced ancient mammoth DNA from preserved skin, bone, and hair to learn which genes controlled traits as coat, color, and cold tolerance. They altered the corresponding genes in labs in mice and made other alterations in the rodent's genome. What was the purpose of doing this? Well, it's their pitch that they want to offer biodiversity, and they're going to bring back the woolly mouse, which they obviously already have. They're going to bring back the dodo, is the next thing they hope to resurrect. They want to save extinct species, and they say it's going to require tweaking DNA to make them more resilient. Researchers at the companies claim that bringing back extinct species can help the environment. For example, they say the mammoth can help fight climate change by tamping down Arctic permafrost, reducing how much of its thawing and releasing methane into the atmosphere. Company co-founder and CEO Ben Lamb puts the approach in startling terms. Why leave nature to chance? Why play God? Is my question. It has raised hundreds of millions of dollars from everyone, including celebrities. And pay attention to these three letters here that I'm going to just abbreviate: the C, the I, the A. Millions of dollars. I haven't seen this one in Doge's sites yet, but many experts in genetic engineering and conservation are skeptical, saying that it's bringing back risky species such as wolves and elephants have come into conflict with humans, and others have fallen victims to predators and poachers. No one knows exactly what would happen if a mammoth, or more technically, an elephant-mammoth hybrid, were released. What would it eat? How would we protect it? Could it reproduce? As for saving the climate, we're looking for a warming world, and Colossal, the company, wants to bring back creatures that are adapted to the cold. A paleontologist at the National Museum of Scotland who studies ancient mice-sized mammals, a study from the past, and they should stay in the past. They lack habitat, human conflict, agriculture, climate change. The idea that they can fix with gene editing is missing the bigger picture. Colossal was founded in 2021 by Lamb, who made billions of dollars by founding tech companies, according to Forbes magazine and Harvard biologist George Church. In 2024, they announced it had created elephant stem cells, which can be reprogrammed to become specific tissue, such as egg cells. Colossus says mass-produced elephant egg cells are vital for conservation breeding programs and will be needed to clone any future elephant-mammoth hybrids. The woolly mouse is the latest development to emerge from that quest. Mice are easier to work with than elephants, you think? In a statement issued this week, Colossal's chief science officer, Beth Shapiro, called the news an important step towards validating our approach to resurrecting traits that have been lost to extinction. I still say shouldn't play God. Didn't we learn anything from Jurassic Park? Colossal's team used standard techniques to target different genes in the mouse genomes to create mammoth-like hairs, pattern, and color, producing mice with long hair, enhanced waviness, and altered coat texture, according to the research paper by the company that has not yet been peer-reviewed. That's going to be when the science meets the road, when it gets peer-reviewed. We use the ancient DNA to identify the genes we were interested in, so they just pick what they want, which is very concerning if we follow those three letters. Think about that for a minute. We used ancient DNAs to identify genes we were interested in. We looked for mice that have genetic variations in those same genomes we identified using ancient DNA, and we put those particular mouse variants together. Just remember those words. And we don't for a moment think that there could be a Bigfoot. Yeah. The mouse gene altered with ancient mammoth variant, or ALI, affects keratin, a protein found in the hair and nails, was inserted into the mouse to alter its hair texture, specifically waviness. Okay. Hold on a minute. I gotta get rid of this cat. All right. So the team has also targeted lipid metabolism, which is the process by which the body breaks down, synthesizes, and stores fat, Shapiro says. The paper notes that future experiments will examine the effect of high-fat diets and temperature preferences on the mice to inform further work toward the goal of developing cold-adapted elephant mammoth hybrids. Other experts say putting DNA from extinct species into living one is an accomplishment, but they still wonder, why would you make a mutant mouse at all? Is that going to be how we take Greenland? Are we going to release the woolly mouse in Greenland? Because they don't have a military, they don't have a militia. Are we just going to say, all right, here's a mouse, it's coming for you? The government is trying to keep reptoids from taking over, is what Wendell says. Well, for all we know, reptoids could be in charge. Not all of the embryos led to successful pregnancy, they state, but every mouse was born still alive. Oh, that's good. They've been doing this since mid-October of 2024, and our mice have enhanced living conditions and under full-time care of a veterinarian staff. All of our work is overseen and pre-approved by external ethics board, the Institutional Animal Care and Use Committee, and only trained scientists interact with the mouse. If a mouse were to somehow escape the lab, the potential biological implications pose yet another concern, because the animal could mate with members of wild population. Anyone who's kept pet mice know they can get out and escape easily. Yes. My uncle, the veterinarian, had pet mice for a while for something he was doing for the University of Tennessee. There were some in the cage, and there was a shit ton of them elsewhere. And there were some that would come back to the cage, and there were some, yeah, they were everywhere. Genetic mutations that happen naturally with reproduction notes that they have no impact. Genetic changes are not in and of themselves a cause for concern, they say, when they try and infect the way an organism looks or acts, are so they don't think there's no more caution necessary. Our approach is to evaluate the impact of edits in many ways possible before making them. The company is all of the engineered mice so far are male, and there are no plans to breed them. Okay. Wouldn't that look cute on the pet store? Come on, you know you want one. Google, if you're listening to us, Google a picture of the woolly mouse. It's a cute mouse. But yeah, so yes, we're tampering with nature. We're playing God. And we wonder why there's a 3-letter agency involved. Others aren't convinced by the creation of organisms such as the woolly mouse. It's arrogance, says Sue Lieberman, Vice President of International Policy at the Wildlife Conservation Society, who has spent decades fighting the whaling and ivory trade. I'm not against technology. I'm not against saying nature's perfect, but this is such a waste of money when conservation is dying for lack of funds to make some strange animal we can gawk at. Yeah, that's pretty much true. Trailblazing biologist George Schaller agrees we need to protect what we have. Well, remember yesterday we reported that we were giving tons of lettuce to manatees in Florida, off the coast of Florida. Speaking of Florida, the Coast Guard has offloaded more than 6 tons of cocaine worth $140 million at the Miami Beach port. U.S. Coast Guard cutter crew on Thursday offloaded more than 12,000 pounds of narcotics at a Miami Beach port. The agency says it is worth millions of dollars on the streets. Members of the cutter Valiant dropped over 6 tons of the cocaine at Coast Guard base in Miami Beach, valued at more than $140 million from 6 interdictions they made in the Caribbean Sea that were conducted by U.S. and allied forces, according to the agency. About 17, what do I say about 17 smugglers, don't they have an accurate count of how many smugglers were detained during the operation that involved multiple agencies, including the Coast Guard, the British Royal Netherlands Navy, and the Royal Canadian Navy? We have about 17 people in custody. Shouldn't you have an exact count? Asking for a friend. The seized contraband was a result of the 6 interdictions in the Caribbean Sea. And the 17, here they say the 17 suspected, like they're pretty sure, were transferred ashore to face federal prosecution in U.S. courts. These seizures are a testament to the Coast Guard's continued dedicated to safeguard America, by securing our maritime border. Jesus Martinez Borges of the 7th Coast Guard District Enforcement Officer stated, "In the Coast Guard and our partners work tirelessly to deny drug trafficking, organizing access to smuggling routes bound for the U.S. Our efforts contribute to federal investigation and prosecutions that further seek to disrupt and dismantle international criminal activity abroad, which threatens us here at home." As Atlanta PD picked up their sherry at Wendell says, asking for a friend. Well, they're in Miami, so I'm betting that, probably not. On February 7th, 2nd, a Dutch Caribbean Coast Guard air crew located a suspicious vessel in international waters about 30 miles north of Venezuela. The crew of the Groningen, I guess, along with U.S. Coast Guard crew embedded on the ship, intercepted a speedboat with 5 people on board, hauling 6,220 pounds of cocaine, according to the agency. Oh my, Ken says, KG says, "Oh my God, the Wikipedia page of the woolly mouse was just updated at noon." That'll be some crazy reading. Yeah, please let me know, Ken. And I mean, I gotta kind of admit, it's a cute mouse. I mean, it really is. But are we ready for the wool? I mean, like I said, is that how we're going to invade Greenland? Hey, Trump said we were taking it. They don't have an army. They don't have a navy. So just release a woolly mouse and say, we'll be back. I don't know. On February 14th, a Dutch airplane spotted a crew in a boat traveling about 18 miles north of Venezuela. 2 patrol boats launched from the Groningen with U.S. Coast Guardsmen. Is that an improper term? Guardsmen, Coast Guardsmen, chased after the speedboat, but the vessel found in international waters before they reached international waters before they could catch it. However, the speedboat crew jettisoned about 571 pounds of cocaine during the pursuit, which the Coast Guard recovered. Now, here's my question. Before they got to the Venezuela water, I'm thinking some of our bullets could have disabled the speedboat. Maybe that's why they say about 17. I don't know. Then on about February 17th, U.S. Customs Border Protection Air and Marine Operations airplane crew spotted a boat traveling in international waters about 50 miles northeast of the Dominican Republic. According to Coast Guard, the cutter Valiant launched a patrol boat, which intercepted the speedboat, catching 5 suspected smugglers and seizing 1,280 pounds of cocaine. Valiant crew interdiction is one of many law enforcement actions highlighting the time-tested partnership and outstanding coordination the 7th Coast Guard District, Coast Guard Sector San Juan, and U.S. Customs and Border Protection Caribbean and Air, Marine, and Beach Branch, according to Commander Matthew Press, the commanding officer of the Valiant. Go away, hit and run. You're stupid. So yeah, they got about 17. They have in custody about 17 smugglers. About. All right. Continuing onward, we said we were going to talk about SpaceX. Their latest Starship test flight ends in another explosion. Nearly 2 months after an explosion, flaming debris raining down on the Turks and Caicos, SpaceX launched another mammoth, we're using the term mammoth frequently, mammoth Starship rocket on Thursday, but lost contact minutes into the test flight as the spacecraft came tumbling down and broke apart. This time, the wreckage from the latest explosion was seen streaming from the skies over Florida. It was not immediately known whether the spacecraft self-destruct system had kicked in to blow it up. That would be kind of nice to know. The 403-foot rocket blasted off from Texas, caught the first stage booster back at the pad with a giant mechanical arm. The beautiful, precious arm. I can't think of all the adjectives. But engines on the spacecraft on top started shutting down as it streaked eastward for what was supposed to be controlled entry over the Indian Ocean. Half a world away, contact was lost less than 10 minutes in, and the spacecraft went into an out-of-control spin. It did reach nearly 90 miles of altitude before trouble struck, and before 4 mock satellites could be deployed. It was not immediately clear where it came down, but images of flaming debris were captured from Florida, including Cape Canaveral. The space skimming flight was supposed to last an hour, the FAA said, but it would require they're requiring SpaceX to investigate the accident. So the FAA is not going to investigate it. They are going to let them investigate their own accident. Wendell says, why do they want an ice-covered island for? It's what's under the ice is what America wants, because like everything else in America, we ruin the environment. So we are blowing spaceships up and letting them investigate their own accident. Unfortunately, this happened the last time, so we have some practice at this, the SpaceX flight commentator said. Unfortunately, this happened last time too, so we have some practice. Yeah. They later confirmed that it experienced a rapid, unscheduled disassembly during the ascent engine firing, and that it alerted officials before it broke up. Flights were briefly grounded at Orlando due to space launch debris in the area, the airport posted. Starship didn't make it quite as high as far last time. Wendell said he's got to leave as his battery is dying. Well, Wendell, get on the computer. Plug it up. We're not done yet, Wendell. NASA has booked Starship to land its astronauts on the moon later this decade, according to Elon Musk, and they're aiming further for the stars at Mars with the world's biggest, most beautiful, one big, beautiful rocket from SpaceX. Last time Starship had mock satellites to release, once the craft reached space on this 8th test flight, they have scheduled a practice for future missions. They're going to resemble the SpaceX Starlink internet satellites, which thousands are currently in orbit. And they were meant to fall back down during the brief taste of space. All right, so they were designed in preparation for the next big step, which was returning us to the moon. During the last demo, SpaceX captured the booster at the launch pad, but the spacecraft blew up several minutes over the Atlantic Ocean. No injuries or major damage were reported, and any investigation remains ongoing. Leaking fuel triggered a series of fires that shut down the spacecraft's engine. The onboard self-destruct system kicked in as planned. Now they say further down in the press release. Earlier, they didn't know. They thought it might have about blown up. So it soared out over the southernmost tip of Texas near the Mexican border, continuing eastward, or it came crashing down over the Atlantic Ocean. Now, my question is this. I'm not trying to start a conspiracy or say anything, but we're having all these problems getting our rockets up. And to date, I believe Japan and 2 American companies have successfully landed orbiters, vessels on the moon. We haven't determined or is it China? We haven't determined yet if they survived the actual landing. Didn't we do this back in the 60s? Don't we have like some notes from before that we could be like, oh, we could do this so much better now? It seems like it would be easier and simpler now that we have quantum computers that operate outside the realm of what we know as possibilities. Can't we just put in land, man on moon, and it pop up with like the calculation like Texas Instruments used to do? I don't know. We'll continue with some more space news. Stranded NASA. All right, we'll try that again. Stranded astronaut Barry Butch Wilmore's teen daughter breaks silence on the debacle. His teenage daughter, Darren Wilmore, said it is mentally exhausting to have her dad stuck in space since June of 2024. Barry Butch Wilmore's family is definitely feeling the space. Okay. Butch and his fellow astronaut Sunita Suni Williams have been stranded on the International Space Station since June due to equipment issues with her Boeing Starliner spacecraft, extending what was to be the 8th-day mission indefinitely. And my question about that is, how did they have Christmas hats and costumes if they knew they were coming back? In nearly 9 months after the initial scheduled return, his teenage daughter has finally broken out and spoke about the ordeal. There are a lot of things I'm not at liberty to say and I don't fully know about, she shared in her TikTok, but there's issues. There's been negligence, and that's the reason why this is just getting further delayed. There's been issue after issue. And while Butch and Suni are projected to return back to Earth this spring, she understands that things could always change. We've had so many changes, she continued. It's a bit mentally exhausting. She added, it's been hard if I were completely honest. Now, there's been several hiccups in bringing Butch and Suni home. The two were scheduled to leave in February, but their departure since was pushed back due to delay in launching their replacements. They are also not permitted to fly back in the SpaceX 8 craft, which successfully touched down in October, since all the seats were taken by astronauts who had been aboard the International Space Station since March. Still, she says she's missing her father, and she's going to keep her chin up and wants him to keep his chin up. He's just bummed, but he's fine, she shared. My dad is very resilient. NASA has shared it's been making efforts to ensure a safe return for Butch and Suni. In fact, part of the reasons why the return has been postponed is due to the safety, according to the agency chief astronaut officer Bill Nelson. I am definitely not Dan Rothers. Space flight is risky, even at its safest and most routine, he said in a December statement after Butch and Suni's Starliner was scheduled to return, and it came back uncrewed. The decision to keep Butch and Suni aboard the ISS and bring the Boeing Starliner home unscrewed is the result of our commitment to safety and our core value. And while President Trump recently said the astronauts were abandoned in space, Butch himself has a different outlook. That's been the narrative from day one: stranded, abandoned, stuck. And I get it, he told CNN in February. But that is, again, not what our human space flight program is about. We don't feel abandoned. We don't feel stuck. We don't feel stranded. Well, all right then. So let's hope they get home soon to see their family. All right. So top scorers for yesterday in basketball, in men's college basketball yesterday. Michigan State and Iowa. Was that the only ones that played yesterday in men's college basketball? Or was yesterday women's basketball? Scores yesterday. Yes, Oklahoma beat Georgia. North Carolina beat Boston. Vanderbilt beat Tennessee. Florida beat Alabama. Is this yesterday? Yeah, this is yesterday. And Kansas State beat University of Central Florida. Iowa beat Michigan State. South Dakota State beat Omaha. Nebraska beat Illinois. Michigan overcame Washington. Norfolk State beat Howard. Fairfield beat Siena. Indiana beat Oregon. And Liberty beat Middle Tennessee, with Green Bay beating Oakland. FDU, I'm not sure who that is, beat Lemoyne. All right, so that was the women's college basketball. We know that their tournament is about to start, so we're looking forward to that. Some of the highlights of the NBA games: the Hawks, the Celtics, the Rockets, and the Lakers were all winners. And I overheard earlier that there was some scores in the NHL that were pretty impressive too. So I think Tampa, was it the Lightning? Tampa Lightning, they were up by like 7 or something like that, I think, in their win. Let's pull it up and see. 6-5 and over the Sabres. The Hurricanes beat the Bruins. The Hockey Club. Who's the Hockey Club? Beat the Red Wings. The Predators beat the Kraken. I love that name, Kraken. The Oilers beat the Canadiens. Jets beat the Flyers. Panthers beat the Blue Jackets. Stars beat the Flames. And the Avalanche beat the Sharks. Major League Baseball. We are still not done with spring training. The Braves are currently losing 7-1 at the bottom of the fifth in spring training. And the Cubs will play at 3:05 against the White Sox. Yesterday's scores in MLB: Nationals beat the Cardinals, the Rays beat the Phillies, Twins beat the Yankees, Blue Jays beat the Sox, Giants beat the White Sox, Dodgers beat the Rangers, Rangers beat the Padres, so they were a split squad. Marlins and Ravens were tied. Why did we even bother? Pirates stomped the Orioles. The Guardians beat the Diamondbacks. Who are the Guardians? Oh, that's right. They're that team in Ohio. The Royals beat the Cubs. Sorry, they beat them 9-3 yesterday, Chris. And the Astros beat the Mets. Brewers beat the A's. They don't want to be called anything but the A's, I read in an article today, because they don't want to be considered anything but the A's until they move to Las Vegas. Angels and Mariners tied, and the Diamondbacks beat the other squad of Mariners 11-4. And there's no news in motorsports to speak of, so that's pretty much it. Hold on, we need to see. Chris, was there any soccer games? I don't know. I didn't really look. Soccer. Yesterday, they had a tie. Manchester tied. Inter Miami beat Cavaliers. Chelsea beat Copenhagen. And Alkmaar beat Totem. All right. Celebrity news. Well, these are just the highlights. I'm not going to read all these, but I do have a couple stories. Stephen A is once again in the news. Apparently, he had some kind of confrontation with LeBron and his son Bronny on the court last night. So that was interesting. And so he's in the news again. That was one big headline. And other celebrity news. Meghan Trainors. Anybody remember who Meghan Trainors is? She debuts her breast lift and implants. They're finally twin sisters and not distant cousins. Her quote, not mine. She's all about the boob job. Meghan Trainor revealed that she got breast implants and went a breast lift procedure in a video she posted yesterday on Instagram. I want to share some big news. I got my boobs done. Trainer 31 said in her video. She did post before and after pictures if you want to go to Instagram and look at them. As you know, I'm super busy chapter in my life. I've been touring, working, and mommying really hard. So recently I was deciding to do something just for me. I got a breast lift and augmentation with Motiva implants, finally. And she says, the dear future husband artist said that she felt like timing was right, especially after having 2 kids, living a healthier lifestyle, and losing all of her weight. I couldn't be happier with my decision. I am so obsessed, she said. So you can go over to Instagram and check out the pictures and see the before and after. The pop star admitted that she had always struggled with loving her natural breasts before she had the procedure. I got them done because they were never even. They were always saggy my whole life. Is that not too much information? She tuned to an implant brand called Motiva because they made her breasts look and feel amazing. Okay. I wanted to make sure I had a very natural look and feel, adding that the company's smooth silk Ergomix implants made the most sense because they adapt to the movement, making them feel more like natural breasts. While she admitted that having surgery was not an easy decision, she said that Motiva's low rate of complications reassured her that she was making the right choice. I love my results so much, she cheered. My breasts look fuller yet completely natural, and they complement my body proportions beautifully. All right, so they're finally twin sisters and not distant cousins. So go check out Meghan Trainor on Instagram and look at the before and after pictures. You will not be disappointed. All right, we're just going to leave that and go to another big breast. Dolly Parton, she spoke out at the CMA Awards with "I Will Always Love You," speaking of her of her husband who died earlier this month. Country legend Dolly Parton broke her silence on Thursday following the heartbreaking news March 3rd of the death of her husband of nearly 60 years. Carl Dean was 82. This is a love note to family, friends, and fans on a post to Instagram from the 79-year-old country singer and actress. Thank you for all the messages, cards, flowers, that you sent to pay your respects for the loss of my beloved Carl. I can't reach out personally to each of you, but just know that it's meant the world to me. He's in God's arms, and I'm okay with that. I will always love you," she continued, likely a reference to her hit from 1973, "I Will Always Love You." The post come days after a statement spent many, okay, not sure where I went, but I'm back. Yeah, I'm still alive. Dolly Parton and her husband spent many years together, 60 years, and she wanted to thank everybody. A cause of death has not yet been announced. He was a Tennessee businessman. They met and moved to Nashville, and she was 18 and he was 21. And it's been love ever since. And he's remained out of the limelight by his choice. All right. We're going to finish up here real soon, guys and gals. Pop needs freaks. Well, thankfully, Lady Gaga is back. That's right. Lady Gaga posts on Instagram a photograph taken at the Super Bowl, and she has released her new album today. So go check it out. And she is, well, she's considering a pop and a new blend of new music. So I'm not sure what that means. So look forward to it. The singles are dropping Friday. So she's got to return back to our ears. She's going to tickle our ears. The songs, the hit songs, well, probably will be hit songs, will drop on Friday. So she goes on in her release talking about her deranged fans, which she calls her little monsters, and then how she is so appreciative of the support and everything from her music to her involvement with DC Comics. And she's excited about the release of her new music. All right. So we're glad to hear that she's doing well and that she's producing more music. All right. Jack Daniels, of all things, Jack Daniels got caught in the trade war. So maybe we're having a trade war. Maybe we're not. Maybe there's tariffs. Maybe there's not. I don't know. It's sending the stock market crazy and pundits like me wondering what in the same hell are we doing. But Jack Daniels and Coke, or Jack and Coke, were caught in the middle. Well, Jack and Coke in Canada is just now Coke because Canadians are removing all of the American liquor from their shelves in protest. And Jack Daniels is caught right smack dab in the middle. So basically, they're pulling everything that U.S. produces alcohol-wise off their shelves. And the citizens are saying that's way worse than a tariff. And they are saying it's disproportionate reaction to what the tariff is. So, but they did say that Canada only accounts for 1% of their company's sales, so it can withstand the boycott. So, yep, Kentucky exported about 76 million barrels, $76 million worth of whiskey and other spirits to Canada in 2023, according to the Department of Agriculture and Food from Canada. We're the largest purchaser of bourbon in the world from Kentucky bourbon manufacturers, according to Ontario-based Premier Doug Ford. They're done. They're gone. No more. Well, Canadians, I got some news for you. You release that you're protesting Kentucky-made whiskey. Jack Daniels is made in Tennessee. It says so right on the bottle. You might want to read it. All right. Greenland Prime Minister. We do not want to be Americans. Greenland's Prime Minister Mute Egni said on Wednesday that the Greenlandic people will determine their future and they do not want to be Danes nor Americans. He made this comments in reaction to President Trump, who on Tuesday reiterated his desire to make Greenland, currently a semi-autonomous territory of the Kingdom of Denmark, part of the United States. We do not want to be Americans nor Danes. We are Greenlanders. I can't pronounce the other word. KG says, I just got an email from the county. All fire and police sirens to sound at 6 p.m. in honor of the Global Day of Unplugging. I've never heard of this, but apparently it's the 10th anniversary globally. I'll Google that in just a minute. Okay. We are not for sale and we cannot be taken. Our future is determined by us in Greenland, he added. The Greenland government is currently in a caretaker period leading up to an election scheduled for 11 March. The campaign is centered primarily on the island's independence aspirations in light of Trump's interest. Denmark's foreign minister said earlier on Wednesday that it was significant that Trump has recognized Greenland's right to self-determination in his address to Congress. Ken, can you send me a link in Messenger? Opinion polls suggest that most Greenlanders oppose joining the United States, although a majority favor eventual independence from Denmark. The Danish government has said the Arctic island must decide its own future and is not for sale. Trump said, this is quotes, they respect the right to Greenlandic self-determination, and I think was the most important part of the speech, Danish foreign minister said in a press conference in Helsinki on Wednesday. Well, if we didn't send in our mouses, if we didn't send them in, they don't have an army, they don't have a navy, they don't have a coast guard, they don't have an air force, they don't have a space force. They don't have anything. It wouldn't really be like a war. It would just kind of like be an occupation. We send in the mice, we come in to catch the mice, and we don't leave. There you go. I solved the problem. I personally wouldn't mind visiting Greenland some more. I've actually been there. So, finishing up, Trump has sent a letter to the Ayatollah urging fresh nuclear negotiations. And this was dated Friday, March 7th at 11:25 a.m. President Donald Trump has sent a letter to Iran's supreme leader urging the negotiation of a new deal on the country's nuclear program, the letter has conveyed. Trump himself revealed the overture Friday in an interview with Fox Business in such a significant engagement of the administration with Tehran, which is somewhat surprising given Trump's tone regarding Iran. It's been hawkish, especially on the campaign trail. Wide-ranging sanctions are still on banking, energy, and the defense sectors, and all have been for years. He said in the letter saying, I hope you negotiate because if we have to go in militarily, it's going to be a terrible thing for them. The other alternative is you have to do something because Iran can't have a nuclear weapon, he followed with, echoing his prior message, warning that Tehran could either sign a deal or potentially get bombed. Could we send it? No, the woolly mice wouldn't be good for that. We got to come up with a different mice for there. Mice, mouse, meese. They have to be able to pull a parachute string and never mind. Trump has recently brought back maximum pressure on Iran and even this week advanced the possibility of cracking down on sanctions, busting Iranian oil experts on the high seas using naval intervention. Clearly, this is part of the big stick package of actions meant to push Tehran to the table. And so I read this earlier. Basically, we would use our U.S. Navy as pirates. We would just take over their ships and keep them. It's what his plan is. Brilliant. It's better than my mouse plan, I guess. I would prefer that did not happen. I'd much rather see. Wouldn't it be an invade? Wouldn't it be an act of war? Or would we take hostages? Would we give them back? I prefer the mice route. I would prefer that not happen. I'd much rather see a deal with Iran where we can do a deal, supervise it, check it, and inspect it, the president continued. That's when he made one of the most provocative and threatening comments. There's two ways to stopping them, with bombs or a written piece of paper. Mice would be a better option. Get little parachutes for them, send them in. The U.S. is now increasingly worried that given last year's tit-for-tat exchange, major strikes with Israel, Tehran leaders are more uncivilized than ever to secretly develop a nuke. However, the CIA, we've heard of them before, they got to do with the mice, have long assessed, even recently, that their leadership has not yet ordered the pursuit of a bomb. The Ayatollahs throughout the decades have also condoned atomic weapons as un-Islamic. I have not heard that. I thought, according to the mainstream media, which I guess is all I've heard, that's all they want. But Iranian leaders have balked at Trump's extended hand. While it's unclear whether the reaction will be from the newly sent letter, both the Iranian president and the Ayatollah have earlier explained that a perfectly good deal was already in effect, 2015 JCPOA under Obama, which Trump unilaterally pulled the U.S. out of in April of 2018. The Ayatollah said that Iran simply can't trust Washington to abide by any deal, given any future administration can overturn it just as Trump did. Telling you, we get mice. We have train them to pull little parachute cords. We drop them from a high altitude. I guess they'd have to have like a little oxygen mask that they could rip off. Seems like a much better deal. I'd send in the mice. All right. One last news story, and then I'm out of here. A bombshell discovery could render all of Biden's presidential actions null and void. The Biden presidency might have been the greatest con job ever perpetrated. This is according to an article from Zero Hedge. You can find it on their website under their political section. The Biden presidency might have been the greatest con job ever perpetrated on the American people. A shocking investigation by the Heritage Foundation's Oversight Project has revealed that virtually every document bearing Joe Biden's signature during his pregnancy was signed by AutoPen, with the exception of one. What makes this revelation particularly damning is that the only document confirmed to have Biden's actual signature was his letter announcing his withdrawal from the 2024 presidential race. Let that sink in for a moment. The only document that has confirmed his signature was when he pulled out, successfully tanking the Democratic Party. Remember when White House Speaker Mike Johnson revealed his discussion with Biden when Biden couldn't recall signing the executive order halting LNG exports? Now we know why. He didn't. The real question is, who did? Who was running the country while Biden was not all there? Whoever controlled the AutoPen controlled the presidency. Think about that. The use of the AutoPen dates back to the 50s, but was recently used in 2013 by Obama when he was vacationing in Hawaii to sign a letter. His office did release a 30-page memo from George W. Bush's legal team asserting the president's presence was not required as long as the president had authorized the signature. What is not clear in the case of Biden is who was running the AutoPen and whether Biden was aware it was happening. Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey is demanding the Department of Justice investigate whether Biden's obviously cognitive decline allowed unelected bureaucrats to essentially run the government without presidential oversight. If this is true, and let's be honest, all signs point to yes, every exclusive order, every pardon, and every official action taken under Biden could be constitutionally void. Let that sink in. The evidence is overwhelming. We know that Biden had handlers desperately trying to prevent anyone from meeting with him one-on-one. Even Democratic insiders will admit the truth. DNC fundraiser Lindy Lee recently spoiled the beans and acknowledged that Biden wasn't running the show. His staff, his wife, and Hunter were. Oh, good Lord. A fake doctor and a drug addict running the country. Dear God. How are we still here? Thanks to the Heritage Foundation investigation, we now have proof that Biden's signature was automated throughout his pregnancy. That would be an improvement. Presidency, which raises serious questions about whether he was aware of what was being signed in his name at all. The Oversight Project rightfully points out that Biden revoked Trump's executive privilege. We can easily determine who controlled the AutoPen and what safeguards, if any, were in place. The implications are staggering. We essentially had a presidency by proxy, unelected staffers wielding presidential power while the man was barely cognizant enough to read a teleprompter. This isn't a scandal. It's potentially the biggest constitutional crisis in American history. The American people deserve to know who was really calling the shots during the Biden administration. These allegations prove true. Every single action under Biden's name needs to be scrutinized and potentially nullified. The truth must come out, and those responsible must be held accountable. Now, do you think the mainstream media will cover this explosive AutoPen scandal up? Don't count on it. PJ Media won't back down from exposing the truth about who was really running the White House. All right, so the mainstream media may want to keep this hidden, but if you check out Zero Hedge and the research from the, what was the name of the organization? Oh, good Lord. This is horrible news. So, am I still live on Yerg's radio? I need to check because they might get upset over there. I keep losing friends whenever I talk bad about not losing friends, keep losing subscribers when I talk negative about the Democrats, apparently. Well, if this is true, which you can go and research it on your own, it is definitely a constitutional crisis. So, all right. So we had a fake doctor and a drug addict running the country. Good times. Good times. Let's see. Let me Google what Ken brought up real quick. Global Day of Unplugging. I've never heard of this. Global Day of Unplugging. Well, luckily, it occurred after my show, so you were able to tune me in. It is Global Day of Unplugging. Just unplug me. All right. March 7th through the 8th, sundown to sundown. All right, good. It won't affect my show. Every year over the past decade, this powerful movement has taken place on the first Saturday of March, kicking off at sundown the night before. Schools, businesses, and individuals around the world are planning tech-free events the days leading up to and following the big day to maximize its impact. Whether it's just 1 hour or a full 24 hours, people everywhere will unplug from their screens to dive into offline activities, real-life conversations, in-person connections, and meaningful moments. Are you ready for a step away from the digital world and connect to what truly matters? Let's make March unforgettable. Let's make March great again. All right. So I don't think it's going to affect any of my friends' shows. March 7th through the 8th, sundown to sundown, unplug. Now, does that mean if I want to call you, KG, that I can't because it's an electronic device? I don't know. And I did hear something else. Let me look this up real quick. A guest on my show mentioned this, and I wanted to talk about it, but I had forgotten on Wednesday. And it's called Wednesday's Waffle. It's a tradition where friends share short videos with each other on Wednesdays to update each other on their lives. Videos can be about good, bad, or random. Friends send a short video to a group chat every Wednesday. Videos are usually 1 to 2 minutes long. They can be shared via phone, video, or in person. It's more personal than a text message, but less of a commitment than a scheduled phone call. It can help friends stay connected and have more meaningful conversations. It can help friends feel more understood by seeing each other's expressions and hearing the intonation of their voice. The tradition was started by an Australian TikToker, Zachary Perez, during the pandemic as a way to connect with friends. So, everybody, if anybody wants to do a Wednesday waffle, you can shoot it to me. You can send a video to Sportcat at protonmail.com. I will play it next Wednesday. Or if you want to text it to me, you can text it to the studio line at 404-492-6095. And I will play a Wednesday waffle if anyone has one. All right. Well, that's about all I have for today. Ken says, everything of mine will be operational. Well, I'm going to tell the wife at sundown that she's got to lose her TikTok, and, well, I'll probably get clubbed in the head. So if I disappear, you all will know why. If I try and take away Mrs. Sportcat's TikTok, she will probably beat me down. Or her word feud games. Good Lord. All right. If anybody has any stories or anything they want to send me, Sportcat at protonmail.com. I'm accessible on all social media. You can find me either at Sportcat or Sportcat Medic. And my email is either sportcatmedic at Yahoo or sportcat at protonmail.com. Either one will get to me. And speakpipe.com/sportcat. You can shoot me a voicemail. I will play it live over the air. And I encourage everyone to hit that thumbs up button, please. It helps distribute us throughout the interwebs. And also share this, like this, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff. And we will continue next week unless there's something going on. And if there is, I will post it on Facebook. If there's some kind of situation where I won't be online next week. I'm hoping I averted that, but we will see. I guess until next week, unless anybody has any questions, everybody have a great weekend. I hope it's great. I hope that you get to spend some quality time during the unplugging, and maybe visit with some family that you don't normally get to. So everybody have a great, I'm going to tell this to my granddaughter or to my grandson too. See what happens there. Take away his iPad at dinner. None of us will be happy. Everybody have a great weekend. We will talk to you soon. I want to thank everybody at Yerg's Radio and Rainbow Radio for allowing us to tickle your ears. You can also come over and find me on YouTube at Sportcat. Or the Sportcat shows are Paranormal Guys with a Z on YouTube. And if you want to buy me a Mountain Dew, because apparently I'm not jacked up enough today, you can send me a Mountain Dew. The links are in the description. Everybody have a great weekend. We will see you later. If you want to send me a Wednesday waffle, let me know. I'll be more than glad. I'll play it next Wednesday. We'll have a Wednesday's waffle segment. Remember, it'll be videos. It'll be great. You can't curse. It's chill.